guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Asher and Gad channel, making Africa home again, one family at a time. Thank you very much for all your comments and purchases of our ebooks to date. That's much appreciated. Today we've had a popular request about how to understand the electrical requirements for your house. So today's video is all about electrical loading. The question is, how much power do you really need for your house? Okay, now being an electrical technical director, I've been in this construction monitoring industry for about 20 years now. So I'm going to explain to you how we assess a building and how much load it needs. I'm going to do it as basic as possible because obviously I'm speaking to the whole world. I'm not necessarily speaking to electrical engineers, so I'm going to try and keep it as basic as possible. But there will be more detail in an ebook that will come with this to help guide you along the way for those who are interested, obviously. So we have a 4-bedroom house here that we are building. Now, the first thing we break it down into different areas: the bedroom, the kitchen, and then everywhere else, including the outside. So starting off with the bedroom, typically what we do in engineering, when you're starting to build a house, starting to design on paper, you don't necessarily know every single item that you're going to buy. You don't know the type of air conditioning you're going to buy. You don't know the type of lights you're going to buy. You don't know everything that's going to plug into the sockets. Even if you've got a couple of fridge freezers, you don't necessarily know all the exact details, so you won't know all the exact loading. So what we do is we apply what we call a power density. So for example, in a room you'd have lighting, and lighting is very efficient these days. It uses LED lights, which are much more efficient than the previous fluorescent lights, and we tend to use a power density of about, let's say, 5 or 6 watts per square meter. Okay, and then you'd have your small power. What do I mean by small power? It's roasting here, very hot. Okay, so by small power I mean your sockets, everything that plugs into a socket. For a typical room would allow, let's say, 5 watts per square meter. Okay, and adding those two things together gives you a total of 11 watts per square meter. Then you've got your air conditioning. The air conditioning is probably the most power hungry single piece of equipment or item in your bedroom, and we normally allow, let's say, about 65 watts per square meter for that as a power density. So adding the 65 to the 11 gives you about 76 watts per square meter. Okay, so let's say you had a typical room that was about 5 meters by 5 meters, 25 square meters. Multiply the 25 by 76, that gives you about, let me just look, I did the calc earlier on. Let me just look at my phone so I don't mess up the numbers. So 76 by 25 gives you about 1900 watts. Yeah, that's 1.9 kilowatts for your bedroom. Okay, we tend to apply a little bit of a contingency. So if I'm to increase that by 20%, give myself a 20% contingency, then I go up to about 2.3 kilowatts. Okay, 2.3 kilowatts. Multiply that by 4 rooms. We've got 4 bedrooms, so that's 4 times 2.3 kilowatts gives you a grand total of about 9.2 kilowatts for the bedrooms. Now, in electrical engineering terms, and even in just thinking about it in common sense terms, there's something called diversity of loads. What that means is you're not going to have all 4 bedrooms drawing 2.3 kilowatts at the same time. It's very unlikely you're going to have all 4 bedrooms fully occupied, all with their ACs, their air conditioning units on full blast, all with all their lights on, all their sockets being used. No, that is not the reality of it. So even though I did 2.3 kilowatts times 4 to give you 9.2 kilowatts, there is still a diversity that is applied onto that. So the reality is, it's going to be less, right? It's going to be less. But let's just work on that number for the bedrooms, 9.2 kilowatts. So then from the bedrooms, we move on to the kitchen. The kitchen is a much more power dense area because you've got so many items of equipment in a small space. You've got your electric oven, you've got a dishwasher, you've got a washing machine, you've got what else do you have in the kitchen? You have a fridge, you have a freezer. So there's a lot of heavy power consuming items in a relatively small space, let's say. And we tend to allow a power density of about, let's say, 160 to 250 watts per square meter for the kitchen. Okay, so again, if your kitchen was about 20 square meters, then at 250 watts per square meter, that will give you about 5 kilowatts. Let's say, is that about 5 kilowatts? No. So let me look at my numbers again. Okay, let's move in. It's like it's getting too hot for you. I'll do that again. So guys, we have to come out of the sun. It's a bit too hot for us today, roasting. So what I was saying is that the kitchen is a bit more of a power hungry space, because there's a lot of high power consuming items in a smaller space, and typically at about 160 to about 250 watts per square meter is fine for your kitchen. Okay, and then you've got all the other areas, your living room, your toilets, your open areas, all these other areas. All they've got really is just lighting and power. So we tend to apply the same sort of 11 watts per square meter over the other area, right? And again, the ebook will go into a bit more details of how you come to the grand total. But in our example, when you looked at all these areas, we came to a grand total of about, say, 10.5 kilowatts. Okay, for a 4-bedroom house, which is pretty okay. 10.5 to 11 kilowatts really. And that 10.5 and 11 kilowatts translates to about, let's say, about 45 to about 48 amps. Okay, and the reason why I talk about the current is, let me just look at my notes, guys, so I don't forget anything, is because it's quite important to understand what the amps are going to be, because the amps determine the size of cable that you're going to bring into your home. And that's the beginning of this story. So let's look at the back here. This here we have the Electricity Corporation of Ghana, the ECG pole. Okay, and from the ECG pole we have 4 black cables that run at high level to the top of our house over here. Okay, these 4 cables, right? Now those 4 cables, they are then diverted into the white trunking that you can see. Okay, so the 4 cables are diverted into the white trunking. The cables run through the white trunking and then down into here. Those are the 4 cables. The 4 black cables are the phases, phase 1, 2, and 3, and then the red is the neutral. Okay, they go through the meter. Sorry, through this breaker, and that is, Chris zooms in. That's a 100 amp breaker. Okay, so that is, you can see the 100 amp just on my finger is. That's a 100 amp breaker. Okay, there. So 100 amp breaker, and then you've got these pink cables that come through to the electric meter. Okay, they come through to the input of the electric meter, and then you have the output of the electric meter then goes into the house distribution board to give you power in your house. Now, the reason why I was talking to you about the amps, remember I said our house is about, let's say, 10.5 to 11 kilowatts, which is about, worst case, 48 amps. Okay, so what that means is 48 amps. So what that means is that the cable from the pole and all these cables have to be able to carry 48 amps safely. What I mean by safely is that they can amps, when current is going through copper, it generates heat. Now a piece of copper or copper in a cable can carry a certain amount of current depending on the size of the cable. So it's important that the 48 amps that we need for our house can be carried by the cables from the pole to here and these cables here. Now, the cables from the pole to this point here, they are 25 millimeters squared, right? In Ghana, they call it 25 mm, which is absolutely fine, because 25 mm cables can carry 100 amps, typically, at least, yeah? Now, again, I won't go into too much detail, but it depends on how it's installed. But here in free air, there's lots of air around it, so the heat is being dissipated. It can carry 100 amps, no problems, okay? Now, in Ghana, typically they use 25 from the pole, but sometimes 16. 16 is also okay, because 16 can carry about, let's say, about 80 amps, okay, in general. It depends on the installation method, but let's say, just say 80 amps in general. Now, what happened in our installation, and I picked this up the other day, initially we had an electrician on the job, and he wasn't very good. I didn't really like him. I assessed him, I didn't like him, but because of the timing and the phasing of the construction, we needed this meter board to be installed, and we needed ECG to come and install their meter. And if you've ever dealt with ECG before, they are a total nightmare. So we had the electrician put this meter board on, and he said that these pink cables here, they're only temporary cables, right? Temporary cables. And so what happened was, because we changed the electrician in that early stage, because he was only meant to do this little bit, so he did this a little bit and went. The new electrician who we have now has done all the work inside, but has missed the fact that these pink cables were only temporary cables. And I only just picked this up last week. I looked into this cable, kind of zoomed in here, and maybe Chris, maybe just want to zoom into this here. If you zoom in here, you see that these cables are only on the top of it here are only 10. You can see it's written in my fingers. Yeah, that's it. If you go up a bit, yes, you can see that's it. Yeah, they're only 10 millimeters squared. Yeah, just 10 millimeters squared are those cables, just 10 millimeters squared, which is pretty annoying. Pretty annoying. The reason why it's pretty annoying is that because 10 millimeters squared, really, in this installation method, right, is going through a pipe in the wall to the distribution board. The max you can probably draw through that 10 millimeter cable is about 50 amps. Yeah, so it is just okay, but really too close for comfort. And good engineering practice, that is not suitable. It's too close, because if your load exceeds it a bit, then that's a risk. You know, I know there's protection here that can trip and protect that cable, but even so, it is still not very good sizing. This cable here should be at least 16 millimeters squared, at least. Ideally, the 25 that comes from the pole will continue all the way through. Everything should be 25 all the way into the house, no problems. But if you can't get a 25 and you need to go one step lower, then 16 would be the bare minimum, right? So luckily, I picked this up, and I'm going to get our electrician to come and change all these pink cables to be 16 millimeters squared, because he's used 16 in the electrical room, and I know that 16 can give us at least 80 amps, and therefore we are okay, because the house will never draw more than 48 amps. So that's where we are. Now, how much of a risk is that? Obviously, I'm a construction engineering guy, electrical guy, so I picked it up. Most people wouldn't pick it up, obviously. How much of a risk is it? It's a bit of a risk, because, like I said, these cables typically would only carry 50 amps, okay, and that is 50 amps in this installation method, and that is 50 amps when the ambient temperature around it is about 30 degrees. See, today it is boiling hot, right? Sometimes in Ghana you can get 35, yeah, and the hotter it is, the hotter the air is around the cables, the less it derates the cable, the less current you can carry. So maybe that 50 amps could end up being maybe 42 amps because it's too hot on that day. And if our house is needing 48 amps, then clearly this is a problem. Because what will happen is that if we are lucky, this breaker is even 100 amps. So that breaker will not even trip in time. So this cable here could catch fire. That is the risk. This breaker is 100 amps. So you need to have at least 100 amps before that breaker operates. But if you only have, let's say we have 48 amps going through this cable, and we know on a hot day this cable can only take 42 amps. We are 6 amp over. The cable is going to overheat and it could catch fire, and then we all know the damage the fire can cause to your home. So that is the risk. It is really, really not good. But I just thank Jehovah Almighty that I picked it up. I just had a look and said, oh, these cables are not big enough. So the good thing is we've caught it. The electrician is going to change it. So guys, watch out for that. Ideally, if you have the same size coming from the pole, no problems. But your incoming cables for a 4-bedroom house, let's say, shouldn't be less than 16 mm. Don't have anything less than 16 mm. So he's going to come and change all that. And that's good. All right. That's good. The annoying thing is this is a prepaid ECG meter, and it's tamper-proof. So when you tamper with it, we're going to have to call ECG out again, pay them another 200 Ghana cedis to come and reset the meter, because the electrician will by all means have to tamper with that to change the cables, which is an annoying aspect of it. But again, the ebook link in the description. We go through the details of how you understand how much power your house needs, and also when you understand how much power your house needs, then you can understand how much solar you need. But that also depends on whether you want the solar to back up the whole house. Solar is quite expensive, so make your decisions wisely. For us, in future, we've got all the infrastructure that can enable a solar system. In future, if we decide to get solar, we will not be getting a solar system to give us 10.5, 11 kilowatts. No, because we don't need the whole house to be backed up if there's no power. If there's no power, I'm happy with the lights, the fridges, and the freezer only, really, as a bare minimum. Chris, what do you say?
What about the bedroom? When you're hot, you want to go to bed, then it's going to be very hot. Then
Yeah,
you can't sleep.
but that's true. But then how many times does the light go off in this? Our light in this area is pretty stable.
It's quite cool here.
It's quite cool here as well.
Yeah.
So people have to make their own individual assessment and individual decision. For us, I feel lighting, fridge, and freezers are okay for in terms of a solar backup, because the electricity is fairly stable. It goes up every now and again, but not too long. And we live in a very cool area. Yeah, very cool. It's very breezy, so we don't really need the AC to be on solar power. So if we decide to get solar in the future, a 2.5 kilowatt system will be absolutely fine to minimize cost. But obviously, if you want to back up your whole house at 10, 11 kilowatts, then you're gonna fork out a lot of cash, because solar systems are not cheap. And if you haven't watched our solar video, go into our video channel and you'll see a video called "The Cost of Solar Panels in Ghana." That will give you more information about how much you could be looking to spend, depending on, again, the amount of kilowatts that you need. Okay, so we're on site today. So whilst we're here, might as well give you an update from the works on the roof. Let's go and see what Sofami have done to date. Well, guys, we went to a house this morning, and just to let you know, we saw a balustrade which is very, very poorly done. This part here was sunk into the steps. This was actually in the step. Very, very, very poor. So guys, watch this. This is the perfect installation. This obviously must be above the steps, and these legs go into the steps. This, if you like, I don't know what to call it, this lower level does not sink into the steps. So that was a very bad construction we saw in a different house. So just one for you guys to watch out for. Okay guys, we're here on the roof. Let's see what updates we have. Our builder has gone a bit further with the solar tank, and he's installed the pump, the cute pump underneath it. Now the water is delivered into the house by gravity, so you got hot and cold water which goes down into the house by gravity, so there's enough pressure. But the solar company gave us a bonus pump, so because we got a bonus pump from the solar company, we might as well use it. So we've connected it at the bottom of the solar tank, and that will give us a bit more pressure. Not that we need it, but a bit more pressure on the hot water, especially that goes down into the house. So let's go and have a look at it. Right, okay. So that's that cute pump there. Look at that. There she is. There she is. Interesting. So that is a 230 volt pump, IP44. So that's a good rating for being outside here. The weather is right for the weather. 120 watts pump. So it's a small pump, which is pretty good. And so that means, now what happened here, guys? This is another construction, things that happen in construction. Let me tell you what happened. So the original intention was for the solar tank to be in this area, and I believe we covered that in a previous video. The solar tank was meant to be in this area, and we intentionally left these cables. These cables were intentionally left for that pump, right? Or actually for the electric heater. But what happened was the solar company, they didn't tell us that the solar tank comes with a monitor, and that monitor only has a certain length of cable. So when they put it here, the cable on the monitor was too short to get to the destination on the levels below, which meant that, and it was difficult to getting them here in the first place. I didn't want to join cables, because again, when you join cables, you create a point of weakness. So because I didn't want to join cables, I decided to compromise and have the solar tank in that position, so that the cable from the tank to the monitor can reach the ground floor location. Now the monitor connects to this cable here. That's the monitor connects to that cable here, and it goes downstairs. And from that monitor, you can control the system. You can see how hot the water is. You can turn it off, or do whatever with the electric heater if the sun is not high enough, if you like. So That's the compromise we have in construction, but that's
No,
fine.
and I just don't like it because it's taking up that beautiful space with the balustrade there where you could just relax, but it's just blocked it.
It's blocked it a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it, but then
I know,
what can
yeah.
we do?
What can we do? Yeah, at least we have all the other balustrades
Yeah.
to look at, and then obviously we'll have to get those cables to that pump to power that pump, and we have to find a different use of this space. To be fair, that space I planned it for a future solar system.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the solar, but then since if we do get solar in the future, it will only be a 2.5 kilowatt, let's say, max system. So that should be enough space over there for that to fit there. It should be fine. Yeah, awesome. So we came up to the roof here to give you an update on the atrium, and as you can see, it's looking much better, just as the concept design drawing. Now it's all sealed to the level of the glass, and then there's structural sealant going around the spaces, and yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. It's looking really good. All we need to do now is wait for it to dry, and then hopefully in the next day or two there'll be rain. It's raining a lot these days, so give it 1 or 2 days, it will dry, and then we will be able to test. We will have a rain test, because it will rain and rain and rain, and then we'll see if it leaks or not. But I believe that it will be fine. It's looking good, because this comes all the way down now to the floor, but it screws to the side, and there's going to be structural silicone all the way along, so the water cannot seep in now. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Okay guys, that's it for today's site update. It was all about electrical loading mainly, with a couple of other updates on the roof atrium and the solar hot water tank. Well, so we hope you enjoyed this session. As usual, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button so that you always be aware when Asher and Gad upload a new video for your educational and viewing pleasure. So we hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget the ebook is in the link in the description below for those who are interested in this more details to help you along the way when you are assessing the loading for your house, and also the cables we just talked about earlier. So thanks a lot, and see you next time. From you it's from me it's guys Yebeshia. See you next time.